Welcome to Handmade Happenings. I'm Marissa. Today I'm making the Children's Corner Johnny pattern. This is a romper that buttons at the shoulders with both the smocked and unsmocked views. I, of course, am doing the smocked version today. I started by cutting out the pattern pieces from the fabric. This is a cotton shirting which I had left over from a previous project. I'm making the size 24 months because I have a doll that I'm going to put this on, and that's generally about the size he wears. And I'm doing the view with the long pants rather than the shorts. This garment is fully lined, so it requires 4 back pieces, 2 for the lining, 2 for the outside, then 2 full front pieces for the lining, and for the outer front there are 2 pant pieces, 1 yoke, and 2 side extenders. Lastly, I cut a rectangle of white fabric for the smocked insert. There's a pattern piece that shows the finished sides of the insert, so I cut this strip of fabric to that height and 4 times the width. Now I'm pleating this piece. I have 11 rows threaded on my smocking pleater. This is what the pattern calls for, but I think it's too many rows because the top and bottom rows are actually really close to the edges. Once all the fabric has been run through the pleater, I pull it down to the size of the pattern piece and tie the pleating threads off. Then even out the pleats as best as I can before steaming it. Onto the smocking. I started with a cable stitch at the top and bottom of the rows that I was using. So typically in smocking, the top and bottom pleating rows are considered holding rows and they don't get smocked. In this case, that would leave me with 9 rows to smock. However, as I already mentioned, I think that's too many rows, and using them all risks me catching the smocking in the seam allowance. So I actually skipped 2 rows at the top and bottom, bringing the rows down to 7. After the borders, I did some picture smocking. This plate is called Old MacDonald's Farm, and it's meant for a round yoke like on a bishop dress, but I'm just using the chart for the animals so it still works. If you want more details on my process for picture smocking, I did just release a tutorial on it, which I will link in the description. After all of the animals are smocked on the front, I flip over the insert and back smock in between the images using white thread. This holds the pleats in place once the pleater threads are removed. Now it's back to the ironing board to steam it again. I let it sit a while before cutting and pulling out the pleating threads. Now some of the threads got stuck. That's pretty normal with picture smocking in my experience, and usually when that happens I just clip on either side of where the thread is stuck and then go back to pulling. Here I think I just left it because the threads are white and blend with the fabric, and this piece isn't like functional, so it doesn't need elasticity like it would if it was like on a sleeve cuff. Now I'm ironing strips of freezer paper with the shiny side down to the top and bottom of the insert. I let it cool so that the paper will stay in place. Then I pin the yoke to the top of the insert and sew it with the right sides together. Next, I attach the side extenders, one on either side of the smocked insert. I think I got these steps backwards from how I would normally do it. Normally I would sew these pieces first and then the yoke, but it didn't seem to affect things too much. Next, I'm taking the pant pieces and sewing them with the right sides together along the center seam. That's the J-shaped one. Now I'm attaching the pants to the bottom of the top piece, again with the right sides together. The freezer paper is no longer needed once these seams are sewn and can be torn away. So that's the outer front assembled. Now the front lining and back pieces need sewn as well. So you just place 2 pieces right sides together, making sure not to mix up the front and back pieces, and sew along that J-shaped center curve just like you did for the pant pieces. And at this point I have 2 back pieces, 1 plain front for the lining and 1 smocked front for the outside. And I'm going to sew each front piece to the back piece along both side seams. Now I'm taking one of them and flipping it so that the right side is out. The other can be left inside out because now I'm going to tuck one piece inside of the other and line up the necklines, armholes, and shoulders with the right sides together and sew along those edges. Then I clip the curves before flipping it right side out and then tuck the lining back inside of the outer part of the garment. Next, I sew each outer leg hem to the corresponding lining leg hem. The right sides need to be together, so it has to kind of be pulled sideways to get it into the right position. and once it's sewn, it'll flip back pretty easily. The next step is sewing the inner leg seams, and this looks a little funny because the lining is still being sewn separately from the outer garment. Once it's pinned, it kind of looks like two pairs of pants connected at the hem, which is basically what it is. I'm starting at the center of the lining, sewing down one leg, over the hem, across both legs of the outside, and up the remaining lining leg, leaving a small gap which I use to flip everything right sides out. Then I sew that opening shut with a ladder stitch. Now I top stitch the top edge, which is again around the necklines, shoulders, and armholes. Then sew a buttonhole on each front shoulder and a button on each back shoulder. To get the button placement, I just fold the back shoulder down until the fold is even with the edge of the front shoulder. I then sew the button in roughly the same spot as where the buttonhole sits. And it's finished. The Smocked animals always seem to turn out a little smaller than I expect. However, I do think it works really well with the fabric that I use because they kind of remind me of overalls, so it just seems appropriate to have the animals on there. And here it is on the doll. There is a t-shirt underneath it. I kind of wish that it was white, but this is what I had on hand. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time for another handmade happening.